How many people here like that old Final Fantasy style gameplay, that 16-bit era? If so, I got a game for you. It's called Live Alive. I know, horrible name. We're going to get right by that. I played it on the Nintendo Switch. It's published by Nintendo and made by Square Enix. Let's get on with the review. What's going on, you guys? Lord Ad here, coming at you for another Lord's review. Today we're going to be reviewing Live Alive. It is kind of a 16-bit old style type of RPG. You know those games that we used to play, Final Fantasy 5, 4, you guys get the drift. Got my hands on this. It's for the Nintendo Switch. You know, there's a lot of things I want to go into this. I actually have a lot of opinions on this game. I know I might upset some people. It seems like when I'm looking on Twitter, it's the greatest game ever made. And, you know, I agree with some of the critiques I've been seeing. But, you know, first thing I want to really talk about in this game is the art style. I actually feel like it's unique. You know, it's that 16-bit thing. You know, a lot of people are going to gravitate towards this because of nostalgia reasons. I myself like this type, but you know, I generally got into the Final Fantasy brand when I was playing like 7, so it didn't really resonate. Wasn't a lot of nostalgia for me, but I can appreciate the art style that this game has going for it. It's got that art style that 5 to 10 years from now still going to be relevant. People are still going to remember that Live Alive or Live Alive. I don't know what the name is really, to be honest with you. But I can't really shame them too much on the art style in this game. One thing I will say though is, you know, when it comes to the performance, you guys know how the Nintendo Switch is. Yeah, I felt like this would have ran better on a PC, a toaster, anything else besides the Nintendo Switch. But I can't say that I had like huge issues with performance, but there was stuttering every now and then. You know, I had a couple crashes. There was an incident at the end of the game that kind of glitched on me. I don't know if it was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. So, you know, keep that in mind. There are a little bit of performance issues. Now, like I said, it's a 16-bit game. It does run relatively okay on the Nintendo Switch, but I would prefer this to be on more platforms so I could have actually played this at a better performance in general. You know, first thing I want to talk about is the story on Live Alive. It's actually a decent story. I can't really have any kind of complaints. There's actually 7 unique stories. There's a little bit more secret stuff to offer that I won't really go too much into because I don't want to spoil the game for anyone. You know, stories can change depending on what you do during the playthrough. Now, there's not a lot of incidences this happened, but there was an incident where, you know, they kind of put the highlight on a certain character, and the choices that you make during that story of that unique character might change the overall aspect of how that story ends. That was interesting how that went through. Not a lot of stuff that goes into that. But one thing I will say about the story that I want to point out to you guys is, you know, as good as this story was, it did feel like Square wanted to tell 7 individual stories and not one story that combines characters. You know, I kind of thought something like Octopath Traveler, where the characters eventually come together. Now, I'm not going to say if they come together or not. You know, that's kind of spoiling territory. But what I will say is I was expecting a more unique, cohesive story at the end that explained why you want and care about these characters on an individual level. And I kind of felt like it let me down a little bit on that. Now, I'm not going to say it was like the most letdown thing, but I do feel like there should have been a lot more thought process to the final chapter. And you guys know what I mean by that once you get closer to the end of the game. I feel like there should have been a little bit more information on that. But it's like I said, the 7 stories individually, they're okay. Not all of them are great. I do feel like a couple of them could have went missing from this game and it wouldn't have really messed with the overall aspect of the story. I did feel like some of the stories was relevant to what was going on, and I enjoyed playing some of them. But some of them, I'm like, nah, that ain't it. That could have went somewhere. But it is what it is. I'm not going to say that, you know, those individuals. I would say out of the 7 unique stories that I played on here, I didn't like maybe 2 of them. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean, that's a subjective opinion. I'm sure 40 people watching this is going to have the same opinion me, and I'm sure 150 are going to have a different opinion, because it seems like you guys like disagreeing with me. But, you know, let's get on with the gameplay, because you guys know that's the only thing I really care about. It's turn-based. You guys know how Final Fantasy is. Persona. You know, you got that 16-bit thing. It's not really, you know, gravitating towards of animations or anything like that. Can't say the animations are bad. I feel like the animations are pretty good on the game. But I will say is, when I played these type of games, always feel like the class system and the job system of Final Fantasy, and a lot of these other developers have picked up on this. I mean, this was made by Square Enix. It doesn't have really a job system in it. And look, that doesn't necessarily mean the game's bad, but if you don't have a standard job system, those old type of standard RPGs, you got to do something to make up for it. And I do feel like the lacking of customization on top of classes that you want, you know, where you can mismatch classes depending on what your major job system is, your minor job system, where that was lacking in this game. And when I mean lacking, non-existent, it felt like the gameplay was more pretty much like you're going to play this game how the game wants you to play, not necessarily how you want to play. But one thing I will give props to this game is how they did the rewards of this. For those of you that know, sometimes when you play other RPGs, it takes forever to unlock abilities. Sometimes you can go 3 or 4 levels of unlocking abilities. Live a Life is not that type of game. Every level you get rewarded with a nice new ability that you can use. And I actually had like kind of a Destiny-like sensation going on where I wanted to know what was going to happen next, what ability I was going to unlock. And there has like a weakness system that's going on in this game. You know, they'll be on the bottom left. And, you know, I'll try to show it in the gameplay that's going on, where it'll show what they're weak to and what they're resistant for. Now, the majority of these characters, they have unique fashions that put them in multiple of these categories, but I didn't really come across anyone that had all of them. So, you know, I do think there's a little bit of balance going on there. You know, you want to complement the team depending on who you're fighting, and you want to kind of make sure you have at least one in all of those categories there. There'll be some bosses that don't care about their weaknesses. They'll be like, we ain't weak to nothing, and you're just going to hit us with neutral attacks over and over again until you eventually succeed. Now, I won't say that this happens a lot. For the most part, the majority of the enemies you're going to come across, they have weaknesses, and I think the game does a really good job at, like I said, rewarding the player for every level they level up. There's a lot of different aspects to stories that goes into this. I do feel like some of the characters had really solid abilities, and some of the characters I probably wouldn't have really chose them. You know, they could have did a little bit better with some of the abilities. Maybe it's because they gave you so many that they had a couple useless ones. But I wouldn't say, if I were to put a scale on, maybe 80-20 were, you know, useless, 20% being the useless ones. Another thing I didn't really like about the game is the lack of store innovation in the game. I really appreciate in these types that you can go to these new towns when you get to them. And, you know, the first place I generally like to go is the stores. They didn't really have any, to be honest with you. And maybe it's because they were telling 7 individual stories. They didn't really want to focus on individual stores because some don't really give you the opportunity to have a store. But what I will say is, at the end of the day, I don't think that really, that's me nitpicking more than anything. They do give you plenty of access to any type of equipment. You know, a lot of random houses that goes throughout the game will have swords and shields on the walls. So maybe it's a little bit more realistic with how you find equipment, but I do think they should have been a little bit more focused on, you know, stores in general. It would have been nice to be able to create stuff too. They kind of had like a thing at the beginning of one of the stories where you can create abilities, but I didn't feel like towards later on in the end of the game that actually was accessible. It might have been accessible towards the last couple of chapters, but I didn't personally find it. I also feel like certain abilities were unique to certain characters, but after you did that story, they kind of were irrelevant at that time. So it's just like, look, I get it. They wanted to bring more in depth in terms of gameplay, but it's just like you could have actually saved a little bit of time than programming those abilities and just had, you know, good, unique fighting abilities instead of passive abilities that happen outside of battle. And I'm not going to say that they weren't cool. They were entertaining for a couple minutes, but it's like I said, after the initial chapter the ability was used on, it's like I said, it didn't feel like it was going to be relevant then going forward. So it's like, if you're only using it for like maybe an hour of gameplay, why even having it at all? But that's just my opinion on the matter. But overall, you know, Live Alive, yeah, it's like I said, the artwork of this game is a very unique type of artwork, and I don't think that type is going to go anywhere anytime soon. Most 16 bits generally go this direction when they make their games, and I respect it. You know, I feel like we could try some new things, industry, you know, especially Square Enix, because it looks like you are making the majority of these games. You know, try something new when it comes to art style. You know, performance, you know, Square stopped selling games to the Switch. or demand them to make better hardware. Like I said, it's not like I could tell that the hardware was missing on here, but I know for a fact if I would have played this on a PC or even one of the, current gen consoles, hell, I probably would have got better performance from a PS4 or an Xbox One. And that's not nothing really knocking on the Switch. Like I said, it's a 16-bit game. I'm sure that, whatever you experience in this game is going to be fine for you. For the most part, the performance was fine for me, just a little bit of knacks here and there. The unique stories could have been better. Some of them could have been better. Some of them were okay, and some of them were really good. I really enjoyed, a lot of the aspects when it comes to story. The biggest gripe I have to say is just like, the last couple chapters. I feel like this, I think, is a remake from an older title, and if they brought back identical from those previous games into here without changing anything, shame on them. The past couple chapters in this game made no sense to me. Felt like characters didn't understand what was going on, and they expected me to understand what's going on. Like, look, you're telling me the story, not the other way around. Square Enix, tell me the story. Don't make me hypothesize what's going on. I didn't really enjoy that part of the game. Like, as far as being worth $50, that's subjective. If you enjoyed those old style 16-bit games, which I'm sure a lot of you did, maybe this game is worth your time. And I can't say that I didn't have fun playing this game. I did. I got about, I would say, 25 hours. It's like I said, the gameplay, it's kind of like that grid space tactics game that's mixed with an RPG. It's not exactly like tactics, but it is a little bit more grid space than most of these type of games. And I would say it is worth trying out. Now, $50 is a little steep if you like these type of games. I would say that is a good sensation by itself for you to go pick it up. But even if you're on the fence at all, and this is not going to be one of those things where if you don't like turn-based games, this is going to get you liking turn-based games. You're going to bitch the whole time you're playing if you don't like turn-based games. I would not recommend this game to anyone that doesn't like turn-based games. And to be honest with you guys, even if you like turn-based games, I would probably wait for a sale for this game. Maybe 20, 30 bucks. I feel like would be a better price point for this. It's like I said, it's not a bad game by any means. I think it was actually a pretty decent, solid game. It's just as far as the performance is up and down a little bit on this game, and some story inconsistencies in it, I do feel like there's better stuff going on. Octopath Traveler is a good, solid game you can play instead. There is a lot of other games on the Switch that, in my opinion, are just better than this game. And, I don't want to be one of those people that convince you not to buy the game. If you do enjoy these type of games, you will enjoy this game. I'm telling you that your money is spent better somewhere else. That's just my personal opinion. I didn't pay for it, so it doesn't really matter to me. But I don't think this is worth the $50. But, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. But like I said, artwork's pretty good. Performance is up and down. The story's okay. I felt like it could have been drastically better. Gameplay was phenomenal. Love the gameplay. It's just, I don't feel like the game's worth $50. But, put in the comment section below, is this something that you guys are interested in? I know that a lot of people are really hyping this game up, and I'm not going to really say too much about their hype. If they love this game, then I hope they love this game. I'm always down for people enjoying games that's in this industry. To me, it was overhyped, and that's where I'm standing with. But, that is the review for Live Alive. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was for the Nintendo Switch, developed by Square Enix and published by Nintendo. If you guys enjoyed this review, definitely hit that like button. We always appreciate it, man. If you guys enjoyed it, why wouldn't you like the video? If you like podcasts or, talking in general, definitely catch into the Iron Lords podcast every Sunday at 1 p.m. That's not football season. And football season's 11 a.m. Addict shows every Wednesday at 5 p.m. And, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. And until next review, Lord Addict, I hope you guys have a good day.